is hour number 2. That's drive time right here on the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan hanging out with you. And if you hang around with us long enough, you know our good buddy William Qualkenbush joins us here on the program. Follow that man on Twitter at Qualk Talk. Qualk, welcome in. Fresh off of the heels of a Thanksgiving, fresh off of the heels of the Tigers taking care of business against the Gamecocks, 16-7. Hope you had a great holiday, and glad to be catching up with you today, my man.
Swanee, I'm glad I'm talking to you. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I was out in Houston with women's basketball. Got to watch everything from afar, so it was a nice full holiday for sure. And I'm glad to be back talking about wins and talking about bowls and just having a more pleasant conversation than this time last year.
Well, and it's amazing because realistically, all 3 of these games against South Carolina the past 3 seasons, the Clemson quarterback has not been stellar. In 2 of those games, 2 years ago in Williams-Brice Stadium, and then this past Saturday, the quarterback didn't have to be stellar in order to win that ball game. Maybe you needed a little bit more out of DJ a year ago in the loss in Death Valley, but you could argue even there. I mean, 99 yards for DJ both seasons, just 100 for Cade on Saturday. What does that say, Qualk, in your mind about this Clemson Tiger team that maybe their quarterback hasn't played at its best, but they've dominated a game 30-0. This one felt like a domination. And then, of course, they kind of let the Gamecocks get off the hook a year ago.
Well, I mean, let me start with this. I think the point of rivalries is to win. I also think that you can't become something that you're not at the end of the season. That's just not a thing that's going to happen, right? You're not going to become a prolific passing attack in game 12 if you haven't been in game 1 through 11. I'm not saying that you couldn't potentially do that. There's a 1 in 100. You know, it's a 99% outcome. And if you struggle to throw the ball games 1 through 11, you're probably going to struggle to throw in game 12, especially with the availability issues that Clemson's had. With that being said, I think it is a testament to Wes Goodwin. The last month, I was impressed by the way that the defense had grabbed the bull by the horns. I've been on them all year about, look, you guys, and I'm sure I brought it up with you a little bit, Swanee, that this was a unit, this Clemson defense, that was not the reason Clemson was losing games. It was not. They were losing games in spite of good performances. But they also weren't making, winning plays. For example, scooping up a ball on play 2 and running it in for a touchdown when everybody else has quit. That is a winning play. You've got players making winning plays now, Swanee. The Nate Wiggins forced fumble, the second time he'd done that against North Carolina. Winning play. Not common. Not even common among good defenses. An uncommonly great elite play. Yeah. And I was starting to wonder, if Wes Goodwin was going to have a bunch of just good statistical defenses, but if he would be able to create the type of DNA and the type of personality that Brent Venables' defenses had. If you subscribe to the theory that a team takes on the personality of its coach, you would certainly then form that into a statement about maybe a team and a coordinator, a unit and a coordinator. And you know what? Wes Goodwin's been a little more feisty on the sidelines, a little more emotional on the sidelines. As this defense has played a little more emotionally, Swanee, I think that's what it says about the program, is that Dabo Swinney knows who he is, he knows who he's not, he knows the most important thing is winning the game, no matter how it has to get done. Lost it last year, and they also know that now they can lean on the defense, not just to not be the reason they lose, but now the defense can be the reason that they win games.
Yeah, it was such an impressive performance by the Tigers defensively. As a matter of fact, it was ironic to hear Dabo Swinney after the game say that, there were moments where as much as he likes to pass the ball, he was like, no, no, no. Literally in the third quarter, Qualk, I turned to Christopher Thompson, who's sitting right beside me, and I said, Toph, I would not throw the football again if I was the Clemson Tigers in this ball game. And they did a couple times, but not many.
And look, that's not to say that Clemson doesn't ever need to throw the ball again. Look, if you don't lead with that, it doesn't mean. I had to push back on this on our show today. People being like, the passing game sucks, and we can't just bury that. I'm like, look, to me, it's not the lead. The lead is you won. There is no next game. You don't have to be preparing a team. Like, that was it. You play a bowl game in a month, but your roster's going to look different. Was that a pretty culmination? No. Would you like to be better offensively in Game 12? Yeah. But you found a way to win in spite of that. Now begins the offseason priority of making it, I would say, priority number one to develop a better, more potent, more consistent passing game throughout the entire season. Look, I think some of it is on Cade Klubnik, who I think has improved, but he certainly has a long way to go with decision-making and execution. I think development at receiver and then availability at receiver are two question marks. And you know what? I've had people going, and honestly, Swanee, I don't really understand this thought process. Like, Clemson changed out his quarterback and offensive coordinator, and the passing game didn't get better, and you're blaming the new people? Why not look at who was here? Why not cast the blame or point the finger at people, at people that stayed? I don't understand this thing. Like, I had a caller today asked me if Garrett Riley was the answer. I said, yeah. I mean, if anything, I feel good about Garrett Riley. I don't feel great about the people that were here for the Brandon Streeter struggles in the passing game and the Garrett Riley struggles in the passing game. If you were a part of that, you probably should be feeling a little hot under the collar right now. So there will be time to clean that up. But for now, it's about enjoying the win, enjoying the way this thing went about. And you're right, there was no reason for Clemson to throw the ball at the end of the game because they were running it so effectively and because the defense. I mean, look, if South Carolina got the ball on a kickoff or a punt, they weren't going to score. David Hale had a great stat on Twitter the other night where he said that on possessions that began with the kickoff or a punt, Clemson's defense was giving up like 1.06 points per possession, which is just remarkable. It's an insane number. South Carolina knows that now because they could not. There was like a 25-minute stretch in the game of game time where they didn't get a single first down in 5 series.
Yeah,
that's how dominant the defense was, and that's how well Clemson was able to move the ball on the ground and create good field position for itself.
Again, he's on Twitter at Qualk Talk. Go follow him every day, noon until 3 o'clock, out of bounds with Qualk and Ben, 105.5 The Roar in the upstate. The other mind-blowing stat for me, Qualk, I'm a little bit older than this, but if you were born in 1980, you've seen South Carolina win in Williams-Brice Stadium 5 times in your life. That's people that are 43-year-old Gamecock fans have seen their team win 5 times. 3 of those came during the stretch where Steve Spurrier won 5 in a row, 1987 and 2001. I mean, that's insane to me because it's supposed to be, and it is, tough to win on the road. But for Clemson, Williams-Brice Stadium has been a place where they've been able to go in and just win a lot of football games.
Yeah, what's crazy is I've been to Williams-Brice Stadium for 5 games, and Clemson's 2 and 3 in the games I went to, Swanee. So
you're not invited
that's
back.
A little bit odd.
Yeah, you're not invited back.
Exactly right. And that's 21 games that have been played, and so in years besides the ones that I've gone, what is that? Clemson.
Yeah, I think it's 22 games, 17 and 5 in that span for Clemson.
Yeah, so I'm not allowed back is the point.
So 15 and 2 when you're not there? Yeah, no, you're not allowed back.
Yeah, so and you know what? I'll gladly take that as tenants. If I never have to go to Columbia again, that'll be fine. Just shout to the Midlands. You guys are great down there. Y'all are great. The thing that I'll point out about that, Swanee, is that there is a posture in this rivalry that generally takes hold. That I would say now it's when I was a kid it was both teams had this posture because from 91 to 97 the road team won every game. So like when I was growing up in the 90s, I never saw Clemson win until Tommy West beat Brad Scott and they hoisted him on his shoulders. I didn't see that. I mean that was the first home win I saw. And there's this self-belief that Clemson has that I think South Carolina brought into the game last year, but that Clemson has when they go to Columbia, and it's not faith without sight. It's faith based on sight. It's faith based on what happened the last time. It's not it is a loud environment. It is a fun environment. It is not an intimidating environment for Clemson. And I like it for South Carolina. You got to be banging your head against the wall trying to figure out how do we get our team to a place where they enjoy this more than Clemson does. Because as you said, Clemson for 40 years has been enjoying the environment at Williams-Brice Stadium. And the last 4 trips there, Clemson won by a combined score of 118-20. So it's not even close. Not since 2015 has it even been remotely close. And some people might say, well, Qualk, it's a 9-point game. Did you think South Carolina was going to score anymore? Did you think they were even going to get in field goal range after about mid-second quarter of that game? Because I did not. That game was not close. That game was a blowout. South Carolina had no chance to move the ball outside of one series. They were aided by a weird but correct rough in the passer call and a couple of big runs. That was it. That's all they had. And that put that crowd on their hands a little bit. Clemson's defense over the last 40 years, Swanee, this is the tie that binds, I think.
Yeah.
Clemson's defense can put an opposing crowd in their seats. And when your program built on great defense, that's why we say defense travels, and that's what happened in Columbia.
Well, speaking of the defense, Khalil Barnes, as a freshman, a guy who came right out of the shadows of the Georgia Bulldogs. As a matter of fact, Qualk, you may or may not know this, but when I did an interview with him when he was a recruit, his headboard is a Georgia Bulldog headboard. The bed that he grew up on as a kid, right, is a Georgia Bulldog headboard. And here he is for Clemson, not just looking like a great freshman player for the Tigers, but looking like one of the better true freshman players in the country with some of the things he's done. He's not just a heady player. Dabo Swinney talked about this. He's very versatile in the things he can do. And, man, I mean, Clemson's had some really good young ones, but he's about as good as I've seen in that secondary at this point.
Yeah, couple things on Barnes. First of all, I'm going to say that Clemson's going to win another championship really soon. They'll be in the 12-team playoff. I ain't even worried about that, but I'm talking about being in the national championship conversation because of guys like Khalil Barnes. Clemson's best recruiting classes have involved development in the back half. They've involved talent analysis and evaluation. Khalil Barnes is a 3-star kid. He was committed to Wake Forest. In fact, think about this. The 3 most impactful freshmen that Clemson's had were committed at one time to Wake Forest, Minnesota, and Penn State. Those are the 3 most impactful freshmen we see. Of course, you could make a case for Peter Woods and Avion Terrell and, some of the guys that have been Shelton Lewis that weren't committed anywhere and were committed to Tigers for a long time. But T.J. Parker, longtime Penn State commit, Will Barnes, Wake Forest, Tyler Brown, Minnesota.
Yeah.
When you're recruiting against Wake Forest and Minnesota, you're not winning titles for your recruiting class, Swanee. But those are the types of players that Clemson has hit on to help them maintain their culture. I actually think they got away from some of that when they started going to the national championship game and winning them. And I'm glad they're back. They're recruiting their recruiting footprint and doing a good job of evaluation, of leveraging some high school and prep relationships. This feels like the reason that this freshman class is so successful because you have 5-star like Peter Woods, the top 100 kid in T.J. Parker. You got an absolute stud in Khalil Barnes, who was a great evaluation. And then you got guys like Shelton Lewis and Avion Terrell who just have that dog in them, like you're recruiting personality and you're recruiting an ability to go lock somebody down on the field. Harris Sewell, another one, a top 100 kid. That freshman class is made of the right stuff because they're not all made of the same stuff, if that makes sense. They're coming from a lot of backgrounds and a lot of different places. And Barnes, look, there's a lot of 5-stars that aren't ball hogs like Khalil Barnes. There's a lot of 5-stars that don't put themselves around the ball like Khalil Barnes does. And dare I say, there have been a lot of 5-stars that have come to Clemson the last decade who don't have half the playmaking ability.
Exists, but he does. But what do you think it's going to look like, and where would you try to address if you were in charge?
Well, without having scholarship numbers in front of me, here's what I'll say. I think Clemson's going to have some attrition on the offensive line, and they've got a small class committed anyway on the offensive line. I think they've only got 1, maybe 2 commits right now off the top of my head.
Right.
So they're going to have to go to the world for offensive line bodies. I think that's clear. I would like to see a defensive end body, if possible. 1, if not 2, because you're relying a lot on T.J. Parker and A.J. Hoffler, and then I don't know after that Kate Denhoff maybe, but like Zaire Patterson's not playing. Do you just want to sit there and not play, or would you like to play somewhere? That's one that you could show the portal. Toriano Pride's not playing a lot. That feels like a pretty popular portal candidate. So maybe a corner, although the numbers and the depth chart seem pretty good there. And another thing is, you've got, and I like Tyler Grisham a lot. I would never ask for a coach to be fired. I think if Tyler Grisham returns, you have to go get him a grad transfer wide receiver. You've got to. Because what's happened the last couple of years is you've had guys who get hurt. You've had guys that are unreliable, unavailable. And because of that, you have a lack of development. The best thing about the transfer portal, Swanee, is that you can cheat and use other people's development to your advantage. If you've got a development issue at wide receiver, go get somebody who somebody else has developed and let him play for a year while you kind of get your house in order. And so I think with Tyler Grisham back in the fold next year, let's see an older, wiser player who's been available. They don't even need to be a huge game breaker. I mean, that'd be great. I just want a guy who's going to be out there 12 games. Because right now, you got guys either unavailable or absolutely it's like playing operation. What's not hurt on you right now? So I would like to see some of that too. And you know what? The other thing, and this is a bit of a luxury item, and I'm sure the plan involves Christopher Vezina here. I think Cade Klubnik needs to feel some heat this offseason. 100 yards pass is not good enough. I think he did what he was asked to do for the most part. He's still not seen enough of the field. He's become a more willing runner, which is nice. I know he's been a little bit banged up lately in the lower body, but he's still continuing to run the ball, take hits, move the chains. I like that. I'm not saying that Cade is not the answer, but I'm saying he needs to be pushed by somebody, legitimately pushed. Christopher Vezina, and if it's not Vezina, I would go get a transfer quarterback that will be able that maybe not $1 million quarterback, but a guy that's potentially willing to come in and compete. A guy like Spencer Sanders when he went to Ole Miss, who will compete even if you lose the job. You'll stay there, be a good teammate. You can also help the team win.
Qualk, we only got about a minute and a half, so this one will have to be pretty fast. Would you say there's any chance? What would you say the chances are that maybe Clemson gets a Barrett Carter back next season?
I think one of those two linebackers is coming back. I think Barrett Carter has wanted to leave. I think he's been eyeing the 3-year window. I've been told that that's still his thinking, but he's not going to leave without the requisite grade from the NFL draft people. And honestly, I'm not sure he's going to get it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's going to like what's here. So I think he's got a better chance of coming back than Jeremiah Trotter. Before the year, I wasn't sure I would say that, but Trotter, I think, has made himself a lot of money. His name speaks for itself, and then his game speaks for itself the way that he's been playing. It's a little bit like running back. I expect you'll get one of those guys back. At linebacker, I think the chance is lower. I think it's probably maybe 51-49 that both those guys leave. But I would say if Barrett Carter's serious about waiting for his grade, I think you may see Barrett Carter for one more year.
That's kind of where I lean to as well. Follow him on Twitter at Qualk Talk every day, noon until 3 o'clock, out of bounds with Qualk and Ben on 105.5 The Roar. Qualk, have a great week, my man.
Thanks, Swanee. Always going to be with you.
There he is, William Qualk.